French Revolution, created by June Park. From the medieval times up until the 1770s, there existed three huge classes or estates that formed France. This social and political system was an unfair regime because the first and second estates, the members of the Catholic Church and the nobles, had access to all the privileges. Those two estates barely had to pay any taxes, could get government positions, and owned 30% of all France's land, though they only made up 3% of the total population. They hated the Enlightenment ideas because they endangered their power and status. The third estate were made out of the bourgeoisie professionals, urban workers, and peasants. The third estate was oppressed, unprivileged, and highly taxed. The third estate wanted to change their oppressed lives, which sparked the French Revolution. Other factors that contributed to the French Revolution was the influence of the Enlightenment ideas, which called for equality for everything, economic troubles, which made many of the Third Estate starve to death, and the weak leadership of King Louis XVI, who couldn't control his people. The Third Estate delegates tried to convince the king and the other estates to change the government, but they were rejected every single time. A passionate Third Estate delegate named Emmanuel Joseph Sieyès convinced the whole of the Third Estate to call themselves the National Assembly and govern in the name of the French citizens. A few days later, the Third Estate delegates were locked out of their own meeting room. Angered, they marched into a tennis court by force and stayed there until they made a new constitution. This was known as the tennis court because of all the conflicts. Wild rumors flew in Paris. The people, afraid that the king's army will kill them, started gathering weapons. Upon doing so, a mob overpowered a prison named Bastille to get gunpowder and arms. The general will of the people were so great that the people literally forced the old regime out of power, and the National Assembly took over the government. The National Assembly adopted the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen, which was a document that guaranteed liberty, equality, property, and the other Enlightenment ideas of freedom to France's citizens. In 1791, the National Assembly completed the new government of France, which was a constitutional monarchy. The king had a lot less power than he used to, and a new body called the Legislative Assembly made laws and declared war. Other nations with monarchs was afraid of their own citizens, revolutionizing against them by France's influence, and Austria and Prussia went into war with France. A Prussian commander threatened to destroy Paris if the king's family were harmed. The people responded by murdering all the royal guards and imprisoning the royal family. When French troops left for war out of Paris, the citizens grew fearful and killed over 1,000 prisoners that were being rumored to break out and control the city. This massive killing was the September massacres. Under the pressure from the people who wanted more change, the Legislative Assembly reformed the government by putting the king out of power and the France becoming a republic. The governing body's name was the National Convention. People were involved with a lot of government changes, and the Jacobin Club was a political group that made the changes. Jacobins were the member of this club. Maximilien Robespierre was a leader of the Jacobins, and he slowly gained power to control France. He was an extreme radical, meaning that he wanted to change everything. With a maniac like him as a dictator over France, the Reign of Terror began. This period of time was when Robespierre executed everyone less radical than he was. When people grew weary of Robespierre and his tyranny, they executed him, and the National Convention set up a new government ruled by a directory. The directory was an executive body of 5 men, moderates, not idealists. That's how the Terror and the French Revolution ended. The French Revolution was like the American Revolution in terms that they were both seeking liberty and freedom through the Enlightenment ideas. But the French Revolution was a revolution within the nation, and the American Revolution was seeking independence from colonization.